Hi everyone, it's Carol here at Oak House Journals. Thank you so much for joining me. Welcome back. And as you can see, I've got the prompts out for Margarete Miller's Collage Weekly Planner Challenge for 2023, and I'm going to tackle week 34. So this is the list of prompts. If the challenge is new to you, there's a link in the description box below the video so that you can find out more information. So let's go through the prompts. The first one is something fast. So I've got this clip art image of a small jet. The next prompt is a scrap from a paper pad. Now these are all leftover scraps from one of my Tim Holtz paper pads, and as you can see I've got 6 pieces here. Now I think these all came from Tim Holtz's correspondence paper pad. I think that's the name of the pad. So I'm not quite sure which I'm going to use. I've got here the ultimate sticker book. Now this is not mine. I've borrowed this off Maggie, but there are lots and lots of stamps or stickers of flags in here. So there must be a flag that I can find in there to use. The next prompt is architecture, and I spotted this image on Pinterest the other day, and I thought that would be perfect. As you can see, it's a building. I'm not sure which one, but it's all been made out of musical notes, so I thought that would be something slightly quirky to hit this prompt. The next prompt is text other than English or your native language. Well, I've got various pieces of vintage book page here. This one's German, this one's Dutch, I believe. Actually that's English, so I can't use that one. Oh dear. And I'm not sure what language this one is. I believe this might be Dutch as well. But as you can see, they're all vintage, they're all quite worn, but I'm kind of thinking that I can use them to frame this, and I'm hoping that will help, because the next prompt is tissue paper, and I've gone for these. Now this is a scrap of some of Tim Holtz's tissue paper or collage paper, and this is tissue paper that's printed with newspaper print. So I'm going to be using one or other of these as my choice for tissue paper, probably this one. And now you can see why I need something that will act to make this piece stand out against that, because if I put these two together, you can see it's almost lost on there. Whereas I'm hoping that if I put something like this behind it, then that will give me some contrast and help. So let's get started. My initial thoughts are that I want to use this one, so I'm going to pop this to one side and just have a little look at this for my background. And it would be quite nice to get something big and bold like that on my page. Obviously I'm going to need to trim it down quite a bit. I'm not liking this, so I'd like to get rid of that. So let's see if I can just move this across like that. And if I do that, whether I will actually get rid of that bit. I will get a tiny portion of that showing if I move it all across like that. It would be nice to get that 755 on the bottom or along the bottom somewhere. But if I pull it right down, then I've got a gap up here. So I am going to need to have that up there. And I'm going to have to level up this top corner with the border. Sorry, I should have mentioned, and if you watch my channel and have seen me do these in the past, then you'll know that I work on this lightweight cardstock, and I just have a 1 centimetre border all the way around that I've marked in pencil. So that's what I'm talking about when I'm talking about moving my tissue paper across. And I've just realised it was folded over, so that might actually help me out a little bit in terms of dropping this 755 down to the bottom of my page. And yes, it certainly does. Yeah, I think that would be quite nice. I like this detail here. I probably wouldn't want that one up there. So let me just fold this over a little bit and see how that would look, whether I can fiddle with this enough to be able to get that on there. Obviously don't have to take it right to the edge of my border, and you know, that would look quite nice, I think, and it means that I can get this 755 along the bottom. So I'm going to go away now and trim my tissue paper to fit immediately inside my border on my page and glue it down, and then I will come back. I've got my tissue paper all glued down onto my background, but unfortunately my glue reacted with the tissue paper, so I've got a smudge line along the top there, as you can see. Now it's not that bad, but I have a scrap of this tissue paper left over, so what I thought I would do is just put this along the top like that and cover up that smudge. And there we go. It's not perfect, but I think it looks better than it did before. Now I need to have this on here, but obviously I need to frame behind it with some of the book text, and it would be nice just to have the plain border showing, but I need to show some book text, so I'm going to need to trim away my edges, so let's do that. Okay, so I'm liking that, and I'm thinking this will go here to frame this piece, a portion behind this corner and another portion behind here if I can. I'm going to fussy cut out this next because I'm going to have it up here, and I need to gauge how much of this background on this architectural image I need to keep. So I'm going to fussy cut that out now, and I'll come back. So there's my jet fussy cut out, and now I've got my background as well, so I'm thinking I'll pop this on here like that, as I mentioned before, and I'm going to have the jet. There's some writing here which I want to cover up, and I can use the wing of the plane to do that and angle my jet as if it's taking off to clear this point, which means if I grab a pencil, which means that I have probably up to there that I can cut along here, and I'm going to straighten this bottom portion up because the whole image looks slightly skewed, so I'm going to do that. As you saw, I did quite a bit of trimming on here to reduce the size, and I actually went in and trimmed a little bit more off the top here, because when I popped it on here like this, I'm liking that I've got two lines of text up there, and there's a 22 here, so I'm liking that that almost gives me the same margin on both sides. And when I put my plane on here before, let me move those to one side, I wanted to cover up that little cresso word there and have the wing of the plane covering it, but then it brought the nose of the plane and this curved bit exactly level with the top, and I didn't like that. So if I angle it a bit like that, I don't think it looks too bad. It's not perfect, but I think that's going to work quite well. If I bring it over, then I've got it straddling the book page, the architectural picture, and also my background. So I'm thinking probably having that like that. I did say that I was going to have this book page up in this left hand corner and probably another piece in this corner down here. I definitely want some sort of border down here, so that's where I'm thinking my scrap of paper from the book pad will come in. So I will just rip this where that gap is there and start playing with this bit down in the other corner. And it gives me an opportunity to tear this gorgeous, gorgeous paper again. It just tears like butter, it really does. Very fragile, but I love it. So there we go, let's position this. Probably going to trim this right hand side of the book text down a little bit more. And again, have two lines there to match the two lines at the top, and try and keep the borders matching. And what I'd like to do is have this 755 showing at the bottom. So I'm lining the edge of my book text up with the line here on my tissue paper, and I think that more or less makes it central on the page. And then, as I say, have my plain there, and that is my lovely pop of colour on here. Now I've got these. I thought initially that maybe this might be nice to use, so let's get a piece of this behind here. Could trim that down. I'm liking the little hints of red. This is too big, so I would trim this down at the bottom. Okay, let's see what else I've got. This is too close in colour to the book page, unless I turn it round and try and use that hint of red there. That's not too bad. My concern about doing this is I've got that writing there, and if I get the margins that I want on the book text, it's going to leave that showing. This definitely isn't working. It's too close in colour to that, but that doesn't mean to say I can't cut it down and use this side, but it's not really doing anything for me. It's too neutral, so I'm going to dispense with that. Let's just see what this looks like. Now this has a hint of almost beigey ink coming in here, but I'm thinking the bolder colour here might be better. So let's just pop this on here like that. That's a possibility, because what I could do is cut it above the book text so that it's framing, the red is framing the book text, and then use some more of that to frame it up there. That's a possibility. And then have my plain there, which is also picking up the reds. But what I keep on coming back to in my head is this, because it's not as regimented in terms of the pattern, and that was what was on the back, and that's going to be way too busy against that, so that's not worth even considering, or I don't think so anyway. Right, okay, I am loving the book text framing this, so I'm going to go with that, and I'm going to ink around the edge of this. I'm just using a little bit of hickory smoke on my edges, just a tiny bit. I'm just going to glue the book page behind my architectural image. I've got two options with this. I can either frame the book page with my scraps, or I can have a piece up there, and I'm thinking that that might be quite nice to do that, and just have a hint of it showing up here. Maybe cut it here, this piece, and get rid of it on this side, and then do more or less the same down in that corner. So I think I'm going to do that. I'm going to pop this in behind to see if it is any good. Oh, now that looks nice. Now I'm liking how that is looking at the bottom there. Sorry I've gone quiet on you, but I'm looking at this now. I am liking this, I have to say. I'm liking the red. Everything is very busy, but I'm hoping that by putting this on there and my sticker down here, that it's going to pull the eye in. I'm just going to commit to this, and as you can see, I've got some paper clips in place, so I'm just going to try and put a dab of glue behind, just to hold it in place as I usually do, before I go in and glue all the rest. So let's glue that bit. So I need to choose a sticker now, or a flag rather, to go on here, and I'm thinking about going with red again. I want something fairly big. That might be a nice one to use. I'm just going to pop this to one side on my glue here. Let's pop it on there for the minute, and I'm going to glue this to my background. I'm just thinking by putting a bit of machine stitching on this tissue paper background, it will help it be a little bit more cohesive and tie it in with perhaps the book page here. So I'm going to go away and do that, and I will be back in just 1 second. So now that I've gone all the way around with 3 rows of beige colour stitching, I'm not convinced that it does in the slightest what I wanted it to do, which was, as I've mentioned, tie it in with the book page. In hindsight, I would have been better off stitching round in black thread, which would have given more of a solid border and kind of framed it a bit more. I could have stitched over the top with the black thread, but I think this is all fussy enough as it is. This page doesn't really, or this assignment doesn't work for me at all really. It didn't from the off, and I seem to be struggling and fighting with it all the time. I love how the tissue paper looked on the background. I really enjoyed that, and I was hoping that the book page and the scraps of paper would be enough to actually frame this architectural piece so that it stood away from the background and made it a good focal point. And I was also hoping that these 2 elements, even though they're top and bottom in opposite corners, might have been enough to draw the eye in. In retrospect, no, none of that worked. But it's all a journey, isn't it? And I have learnt lessons from this. I have certainly learnt not to choose busy pieces. I've certainly learnt not to be afraid of going in with black thread and just be bold rather than go conservative with my neutral coloured thread. Have I enjoyed doing it? Absolutely. I love doing these challenges each and every week, and as I've just said, you learn something, or I learn something each and every time I try one of these. Some you win, some you don't. So thank you so much everybody for watching, and I'll quickly take you through the prompts as I always do, and then I'll let you have some photographs at the end for a closer look at this. So something fast, that was my little jet here. A scrap from a paper pad. Well, I used one portion from one of the Tim Holtz paper pads chopped in half, so there's a portion there and another portion there. A flag, well, I went with this one down here. Architecture, I went with this cathedral image here, all done in music. Text other than English or your native language, well, I've got my German book text here, and I've got a piece up in that corner and the other half down in that corner. And bonus tissue paper, well, I went with some of this Tim Holtz, I think it's Tim Holtz, collage tissue paper for my background. So once again, everybody, thank you so much for watching. Photos to follow, and I hope you join me next week for assignment number 35. Until then, take care, happy crafting, keep smiling, bye bye.